Okay, so I've just mixed our first secondary, right, which is your orange. Now we're going to mix violet, right, which is our second secondary, and that is made by mixing red, right, plus blue. So our primary red and our primary blue. Now, again, in terms of what, we have, again, pairs of all of our primaries. So we have to just think about what is the best thing to choose. So let's look here, right? Out of our two reds, we already have one that's closer to violet to begin with, right? It's definitely not this one, right? This is closer to orange. So we can automatically just get rid of our cadmium red light, and we're left with our primary magenta, which already has kind of a purpliness to begin with. This is going to be our good choice. Let's look at our blues. We have two blues, right? And so we have ultramarine blue and we have phthalo blue, right? Which already says green shade. You know from using phthalo blue in your notation that that is a fairly green blue, right? Especially as we lighten it, right? It's not going to be good for violet, right? Because the green in there is going to make our violet mixture look really brown. So it makes the most sense to go for the blue that's already closer to violet anyway, and that's our ultramarine blue, okay? So these two blues. We will also need a smidge of titanium white, right, as well here, okay? So we're just gonna put that right here. This should be equal parts of primary magenta and our ultramarine blue, okay? And a little bit of white. Depends on how much of this we put down to begin with. Right, sort of a little bit more of this, I guess. Okay, equal amounts of that. And then I think you're gonna mix a tiny bit of white, but it's gonna be more than it's probably gonna be about a third of a blob, maybe a little less than that. So I'm gonna say something that's like that is probably going to be good. I hope that's not too much, but I guess what happens if it is too much? We just go back and we add more of each of these and just make sure we add equal amounts of these until we get it, to be a little bit darker. Okay. So let's try this then and mix these together and see what we get. Now, this mixture, you will notice a bit of brownness, right, to your violet. It's just because of the pigment selection that we have. No selection of colors is perfect and does everything. But, in order so that you don't have to buy 50 colors of every, of yellow, blue, and red, this is sort of the best choice that we have. Okay. I almost feel it. Yeah, this is actually pretty good, I think. In terms of a violet, it's really not that dull. It'll probably dull down some as it's drying. It might look kind of, it's going to look duller in the camera for sure. But I think that amount of white is pretty good. We shall see, however. And again, you should be, for this mixture, I can kind of see it's, it's not leaning too much. It's not seeming too blue. It's not seeming too red. I do have a match here for this, right? And I think that actually, I think it's going to dry down darker. So I think this will probably be a pretty good match. This might have a hair too much white in it. I'm a little concerned that it might. So let's actually add a little bit more. We want to kind of get away with just having as little white in these things as possible, but still be able to control the value. So let's just have a little bit more. This is what we do if we need to correct. the biggest thing is to keep those quantities of blue and red the same, right? So that we're not making the violet cooler or warmer. We're just making it not as white, okay? All right. That's a little bit better, I think. All right, so it still has that little bit of that white in it, but I think we have a better mixture now than we did. Yeah, that's good. So it should be pretty dark. With just a little bit of white. All right, so we get this all mixed. And then again, we want to test it. Oh, and we want to make sure we're comparing it, right, between our red and our blue that we already have done, so that we know that it is in fact the hue midpoint between those two. It might be a little hard to see. Oh, here, and I have to adjust this a little bit here. Oops. All right, so this is going to be a little harder to see because this is so dark. Here, let me actually recenter and then just move in on this. This is really dark, so I don't know that you all will be able to see this exactly, but let's try. Okay, so here is my red, and here is my blue. Right here. And is that the blue? That's pretty good. Yeah, okay, so here's this is my blue that I just painted, so we'll go with this. All right. Okay, so you should be able to see that this is a decent mixture, right? This is another red that I had from before, which actually probably has a little bit more blue in it than this does. You know, the one that we just mixed might not quite have exactly what we need, but that's okay. So I think this is pretty good. You know, it looks a little bit cool, right? The blue stands out when we look at it against, you know, across this border, right, between the red and the purple, or the red and the violet, and then it looks kind of warm, right, when we can see the red in it when we look across the border between the violet and the blue. So I think that's pretty good. And it definitely should be really nice and dark, okay? All right, great.